Welcome, y'all. Welcome to Profits and Purpose Live. I'm your host, Evolve Benton, and today we are talking about the state of DEI, the state of diversity, equity, and inclusion, specifically here in the United States. But knowing my guest today, we probably could even take this to a global perspective. As y'all know, the way that we rock during these live sessions is, of course, so we're gonna focus on purpose-driven business and purpose-driven concepts. But before we get into that, I want to talk to you all a little bit about some profit, right? Because we are also here to talk a little bit about money as well. So I had a conversation today with a client who has been doing DEI work, diversity, equity, inclusion work, and actual work, y'all. This is a job. I want people to realize that may have been watching the media, maybe you've been watching Fox News and you're a little jaded and you're like, they hired all these people of color and all these diverse people and they wasn't doing no work. No, actual work. This person was doing some amazing work at organizations, creating great programs, retaining talent, helping them make more money. And we were having a conversation at a VIP day about sales. And what I noticed in their sales process is that they had taken the words diversity, equity, and inclusion out of their offer suite, out of the list of things that they actually provide for companies that they've been doing 15 to 20 years, they took it out. So when I asked them why, they were like, well, DEI is under attack. I don't want to lose business. And then we started talking about how business was slow anyways. And I started to have a conversation with them about a scarcity mindset and how that can really impact the way that we think about ourselves and our business. So I want to give you all a little bit of advice before we get into our conversation about the state of DEI from a profit-driven perspective. You're in business to make money. You're in business to be successful. Many of you have taken this on as a full-time job. And yes, the current industry that you're in, if you're in DEI in the United States, it is being said that it's not worth it by certain companies, by certain organizations, heck, by even the federal government. But there are a list of organizations and people who still want to do the work. And if we allow ourselves to be erased, they will not be able to find us and we will not be able to find them. So my suggestion is, in order to keep your business going, I would suggest not taking the words DEI out of your offer suite or the things that you create, but thinking about other ways that you can pivot and support organizations as well who might not see that as their priority. And many of you are probably thinking, how can I pivot? I've been doing this work for so long. There's nothing else for me to do. But one thing that I do know is that if you have a consulting business where you're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, you've got two skills that a lot of people don't have. One, you have the ability to market yourself, because you have to be able to market yourself to be able to find organizations to speak with and to consult with. So if you've done it before, you can do it again. Maybe you can start to teach and support organizations with marketing. And then the other thing that I know you probably have a skill set at is negotiation. I don't know about you, but in my 10, 15 years of working in higher education and DEI and working for nonprofits doing this work, I had to negotiate around conversations around budgeting, around program, around policy. I have some really strong negotiation skills. So as you're building a business, you are building the skill sets that you can also teach decision makers and companies as well. So instead of erasing DEI from your portfolio, just do a gentle pivot until the world figures out what's going, or until you find an organization that actually values your work. So I hope that that was helpful, right, as we talk a little bit about the profit side. And now I want to bring in one of my amazing alumni from Speaking for Profit University, Dora Mendez, to really talk about the state of DEI and how to be a purpose-driven business. So Dora, welcome to the stage. Welcome to the stage. I am so happy that you are here. Thank you for being willing to come through and have this conversation with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited. This is such a timely topic. And I'm just really grateful to you, Evolve. And listening to your intro there is almost exactly the same thought process I went through. I have not removed diversity, equity, inclusion, and DEI from my mission or from my website. And so I guess we'll talk a little bit more about what I do and the state of DEI more shortly. But thank you for having me.
No problem. No problem. So Dora, I never got to ask you this question, right? We got to work together on a coach client basis, but what actually brings you joy, and what within the DEI realm of work brings or brought you joy? So what brings you joy personally, and then what part of the work that brings you joy as well?
Well, what brings me is two things. First, my children. I have a 10-year-old girl and an 8-year-old boy, and they bring me lots of joy, more joy than headaches. Uh, when I mean headaches, I mean last week when they all got the stomach flu. And the other thing is really, if you don't know this about me, something a lot of people know is I'm a huge movie buff and movie fan, and I love just really good movies and movie watching. And I'm looking forward to watching the Oscars this year. And in the DEI space, what brings me joy is is facilitating courageous conversations, working with teams and groups, and just working to help bring out their ideas, their innovation, and just seeing that aha moment happen when I'm working with teams and groups. And I love teaching, I love educating, and it's just really great when I see people just really get it and take something really valuable away from an inclusive sort of practice of collaborating.
I love that. I love that you brought in, the facts around like facilitating space, because I think that is such the powerhouse of DEI, right? The facilitation of space. But what was really great for me, Dora, and I don't know if you've had the same experience, is when you're able to train teams and organizations more than once, and you get to see some of the people who were maybe a little bit more resistant before open up. I mean, I've had some people who were like, way, like, I don't even want to do this. And by the next training, they're the one that's almost leading it. And I think that could be powerful, as well. So for you, when you've trained teams and done this work, what are you really supporting them with? Tell me a little bit about what DEI has been for you and for your leadership as a facilitator.
Well, I want to thank you for asking that question, because so many people don't know what DEI is. Like, it's just the three letters: DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And it's not just an acronym, right? It is diversity, equity, inclusion. When you put it together as DEI, it is a set of business practices, strategies, and operationalizing how people can behave to bring the best out of them. And so all together, I mean, obviously separately, they all mean different things. There are different tactics, business tools. But for me, DEI really is about bringing out the best in people so that they can do their best work. And so a lot of people think it's just about feelings or it's quotas, but it's much more robust. And when it's done right, it's a set of practices and standards that help teams and businesses do their best, be more productive, provide effective feedback, like real skills that help drive productivity and profit. Mm-hmm. And so many people just don't know what it is, unless like you and I have a shorthand, because we've done this work. So for us, we know what we mean, but so many people who are probably listening and viewing may not really understand what DEI is. And when it's done right, people don't know it's a DEI program. It's just what it is. So for example, there are lunch and learns, right, to help improve morale. And during those lunch and learns, maybe sometimes staff take turns. This is a program that I have often done, lunch and learns and courageous conversations. Everywhere that I've worked, I've brought that practice. Even remote workplaces, just a way to help bring community into the workplace. And we often try to align topics with business practices. So, for example, I remember doing one about ageism, and the reason why we chose that is people felt it would be like the least controversial. But I, in the back of my head, was thinking about intergenerational communication. We were having
Mm.
a lot. There were teams and groups that were getting stuck because the younger worker wasn't getting along with the older worker, or the older worker wasn't understanding with the younger worker, and there were real challenges with the intergenerational communication. And so having the conversation about ageism, and sort of, doing that, we gave everybody like a little test, and people like ranked themselves, and it was so surprising, and people had just felt so, because we have five, in some places, 5 generations in the workplace.
Yeah.
Boomers, millennials, boomers, Gen Xers like me, Gen X. I forgot about myself. We often forgotten millennials, Gen Zers, and in some places there are still some, octogenarians, and now we're, with the iGen and Alpha. So that communication, not being able to have that kind of communication, can hinder your business, can hinder productivity, teamwork, collaboration, because you're spending time trying to figure out what each other is thinking and saying instead of focusing on the work or producing what you need to produce, because you're not understanding each other. And so that's just an example of a facilitated conversation that I led at like a lunch and learn. We were doing them biweekly on different topics, and it all kind of aligned with interpersonal communication, helping people be better collaborators, and then just identifying also some of the compliance elements, because it is against the law to discriminate.
Yeah.
And so it kind of like brought all of these things into one 60-minute, brown bag lunch session discussion.
Yeah. And what you're really doing, right, by bringing people in where they can break some bread together, is also creating spaces where people can be more vulnerable and be themselves, right? So when I used to work at my university, we would do these dinners, right? Similar to you, right? Where we would have courageous conversations or have speakers who would bring in topics, or we would just focus on a particular group of people who were feeling underrepresented or unseen. So we would do a Black men in medicine dinner, or a Black women in medicine dinner. And in no way was it that other people weren't included, but these were often the smaller groups when it came to people being in the medical field who were actually represented. So we wanted them to feel like they had a sense of home and community. And food always brings people. I don't know about anybody watching here. If you're watching live now, put your favorite food in the comments. If you're watching the replay, throw it in there as well. But food brings people together in such a beautiful way where it allows them to be vulnerable. So you're doing these lunch and learns, you're doing this amazing work. And thank you for framing what DEI is, because the reason I knew people were very uneducated about DEI is that it was people where I knew that DEI had really supported them being in the workplace who were saying negative things about it. And now that we're on the other side of this year, right, and we have a new administration, people are starting to see, oh, ability included DEI. Oh goodness, veteran status included DEI. Oh, I'm not a woman of color, but I'm a white woman. That includes me too. So now everyone's realizing how much it benefited or helped.
It
Right,
helps everyone.
right.
Quite frankly, everyone benefits from and the thing is DEI is an iterative process.
Right.
You have to constantly like evaluate and review, and it's data driven. It's
Mhm.
not it's not about feelings or a checklist or quota. It's iterative. It's a process. It's
Right.
about so I love that you mentioned a veteran status, because that is like one of the first DEI efforts, no matter where, whether it's in the public sector or private sector, veterans go to the top of the list. Lobster rolls.
I think that's
Favorite food. That's my husband, by the way. He's listening in the other room.
That's your hubby, right?
Yeah.
I had to bring that in. I'm sorry to cut you on. I just wanted to bring that in before we lost the moment.
Yeah, lobster rolls is his favorite food. Mine personally are cheeseburgers.
I'm with you. I'm supposed to come to New York at some point. And you got to take me to your favorite cheeseburger spot because I consider myself a cheeseburger and a taco connoisseur. Like, feel like I've had the best
burgers in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and it's a homegrown place.
Love it.
But I'm biased. Dominicans run it. But
But you were saying
like veteran status, yeah. So like you automatically, if go to the top of the list, right? Mm-hmm. But remember, only 2% of our population are veterans.
Right.
That's a minority.
Yep.
There's only 2% of our population are veterans. And so and that's 2% of the population, but then it's a smaller percentage who actually want to work outside of the military, right? That aren't lifelong career military people. So that's like an even smaller number. Mm-hmm. So that's a group, that's a minority group.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I mean, a lot of college educated sometimes they're not college educated, or
which is even smaller,
and can't take advantage of the GI Bill because they need to work to support their family. So so that's a great example of how, and that's neutral. Veteran is, it cuts across gender, race, obviously not ability because able, but wounded veterans, Mm-hmm. So my father was may he rest in peace. My father was 32-year veteran of the Army and the National Guard, Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart. So I have a special place in my heart for that group. But exactly, so people are starting to learn that, some people were using DEI as like in place of, instead of saying Black or woman, mm-hmm. but it's or trans. Or but it really just means bringing the best out of people, having the best, and then this whole merit-based system. It is merit-based. That is it is merit-based. It isn't a checklist. It's a 360 review of talent, where the gaps are, what's needed, and there's really a science to it.
Yeah, definitely. A science that has been used for a while too, right, Dora? Like, this is not something that's new. It's so interesting.
Since the 70s.
Since the 70s, right? And what's so interesting is I keep hearing people really talk about this moment when George Floyd was murdered, right? And how that was the beginning of DEI. But what I really seen during that time, because I got a lot more business during that time as well, was that it was a time for corporate DEI, right? So a lot of organizations that had not supported, never said anything about it, were put against the wall where they had to say something, because consumers were like, we will not shop, we will not do anything unless you do something about police brutality in this type of way. So no, y'all, for folks who are watching, this was not the beginning of DEI did not start 3 to 4 years ago.
In 2020,
that has been studied. Critical race theory has been around before I was probably even born. So much of this has existed. But now I want us to pivot a little bit, Dora, right? Because we know, you and I know. And for folks who don't know, the internet is still very much a very amazing place that has a lot of information. Dora also has an amazing podcast that you could check out and learn more about DEI on as well. So we're not going to spend too much time educating you because we've done a lot of labor of love to do that. But I want to talk about this pivot and the current state of DEI. As a practitioner, what are you seeing in the field and how would you describe the current state?
Thanks for asking that. So there's two parts to the sort of like the current state. There's the organizations in the company who have been doing it well. And so they're like, so we want to keep doing it, but maybe we don't yell it out loud and proud. maybe for political reasons or PR reasons, we say we're dismantling it, but really no one gets fired or gets renamed or relabeled, or there's a reorganization because the goals and the gains are proven. So there's like the state where there's like an outward appearance of dismantling, but really internally the goals and the gains aren't going anywhere. And part of that, it could seem disingenuous, but the truth is DEI is iterative. It has to change. It's always changing. It's always evolving. And if you're doing right, you embed it into your standards of practice, where it's not something you do, it becomes the way you do things.
Mm.
So, and then there's the second, where there are people who sincerely never believed in inclusion, don't believe that an equal pay, or don't believe that I should be speaking to someone who doesn't have the same level of education. There are some people who really just don't believe that diversity is useful, or just, they have preconceived notions or biases or prejudices, and they just never agreed with the goals and the gains of what DEI brings to the workplace, even at the risk of losing money, and those people are happy because now they have a real excuse to just yank the rug out of everywhere, and they are firing people, and so that's just, but that's always been the case. So that's kind of like the two states. And for the people who are reimagining or relabeling or renaming, there are some that are not. They're just like holding fast and digging in. But at first I felt that way too. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to dig in. But I think gentle pivoting is the right way, because you don't want to dig in, because there are people who don't understand, and they will get turned off. And DEI is all about inclusion. Yep. DEI is all about bringing people in, not filtering people out. So gently pivoting and reimagining and trying to figure out how to make people feel comfortable and bring their best self to work without feeling insecure. Some people might say, you're erasing me. There's going to be a reaction either way. There's no one best way. But this gentle pivot, how can I bring people, still reassure people that we're true to our values? I mean, a good example is, parental leave. That's DEI. That's a product of DEI, right? It's not maternity leave. It's not, paternity leave. It's parental leave. That is DEI, and people love it. Everyone benefits. White men benefit from it, because that's really at the heart of it. The really heart of this backlash is that white men feel like something is being taken away from them. And it's just, white men are scared and they don't like it, but parental leave helps them too. They get to spend time with their family, with their wives, with their children, adopted, not adopted, whatever it is, a caregiver leave, all of that. That's all products of DEI, because it's about how do you bring the best out of your teams? How do you support them so that they're loyal, they're happy workers, or engage better with customers, they're loyal, there's less retention. So there are policies that come out of this that are smart business practices that don't take away. You don't have to take away something from someone to help someone else. Yeah. Everybody can benefit when you just look at the gaps. Like, how do you best support everyone? So I liked the use of parental leave, because that's like and even singles. I mean, I've been in where single people were like, that's not fair, that's not right. I was like, there's caregiver leave. Yep, there's caregiver leave, aging parent, sick partner, spouse. There's all of those leaves are caregiver leaves. So let's broaden it. Let's broaden the tent. so that single people don't feel left out. It's caregiver leave.
It's so interesting to me because what I see happening, Dora, right? And I'll be transparent with you and the audience is I knew this was not this, but I knew something like this was going to happen during the pandemic because they was giving us everything for free. I don't know if y'all remember, but we were getting gift cards. We could eat anywhere we wanted. We had to just stay at the house. I mean, Trump at the time sent eggs to us and they got spoiled, but he tried to send like a batch of eggs to everybody. Right. And I said during that time, Dora, I said they are going to get this money back. I don't know how they're going to get this money back in this economy, but they're going to get this money back. So what I think has happened is our economy never really recovered from that, and other instances that we're in a debt that they don't even talk about right now, right? So instead of actually looking at the actual economy, which they're claiming that they're doing now, I don't think that's what they're doing. That's a whole nother conversation, maybe a part 2 you and I can talk about. But instead of really looking at like the economy and where things fell out, they had to blame someone. And it's no one easier to blame than the minorities of all communities, right? So we're going to blame the trans folks, the veterans, DEI, people that really weren't getting barely any of the pieces of the puzzle. Let's just be honest about it, as far as like financing, right? And economy and salaries and how much money these communities were making in the workplace. We've been fighting for that for years. Women, right? So let's blame the minorities in this country for the downfall of our economy, when really it is about the economy itself, right? So it'll be interesting to see in the next few months.
Or the excesses of the very rich.
Exactly. The excesses of the rich, the debt, the bad policies, the bad global policies, the wars, all the things that we've spent money on that have not been human or not have been people, right? And I remember having conversations, Dora, during probably right after the year after George Floyd's murder, when things were starting to be interesting, where people were like, we still care, but you could tell that the energy wasn't the same, with white men who were saying that they were not able to get jobs at the time and feeling very much like, that they didn't matter anymore. So instead of saying that the job market shrunk, or that maybe the educational level and skill set level of that community could be a little bit higher, we're going to blame it on another community. So it's a very interesting time for the field. So what are you doing, right? Like, I know we see organizations, like you said, that are like rah, I love that you said putting their heels in, like, DEI is it. I'm not going nowhere. Then you got orgs saying we got to change our language because we trying to keep our customers. We trying to keep our profit. We got some grants we need to keep. We're not trying to. And then you got other people who are just, honestly, the people who are probably in the best position are the people who are never for it in the first place, because they don't really have to say anything.
Correct.
Right? They could just exist. It's like, I never said I was for DEI. I never said I'm against it. I'm just going to play it quiet. I have no opinion. Right? So what are you currently doing as a practitioner?
I feel like there's pressure, though, to do something. No matter what, there's pressure everywhere. It's DEI has a PR problem because the actual data, doesn't demonstrate that it is a problem. Like all the data, like when you actually look at dollars and cents and you look at metrics, the value, if you actually did that, but nobody wants to hear that. So but there are boards of directors who want things, and then if you do any business with the federal government, there are these executive orders that say during 45's first administration, there was a declaration about sexual harassment training that it cannot shame men. But it didn't impact me because what we had done, we did a respect in the workplace training, which was about just respecting your colleagues, and obviously part of that was the law. which, it's against the law to discriminate against someone for these reasons. It's against the law to sexually harass someone. So the training wasn't about shaming people. It was about helping people understand how to work together and respect each other. And then here's the law.
Yep.
So the executive order didn't impact anyone. But I remember I was interviewing at the time, because this was, COVID time was happening, and just, the Great Resignation. And I just remember being so burnt out, with COVID. And like a lot of people, I wanted to change, not because I didn't like where I was working or the people I was working with. I needed something new. And like many people. When I was interviewing, I remember one interviewer saying, "Oh my God, what are we going to do about that executive order?" And I was like, really? Like that shouldn't even be a question. Like, I didn't say that in the interview. I was, very polite. And I just said, well, if it's about respect, I said kind of what I just said to you. If it's just about respecting people and explaining the law, there's no shame, because the order was very specific. It said it cannot like shame people. Like the wording was like shame. And I just remember it stuck out. And I was like, if you do it right, you don't need to change anything at all.
No, you don't. But now literal language, literal communities,
oh yes,
history is
different now.
Right? They're trying to erase literal communities out of history books, out of knowledge bases.
The Stonewall thing that just happened, I don't even want to, I didn't want to, I was like, oh no, that was a big thing. And for, it's just a big deal here in New York. I'm from New York. And so it's just really hurtful.
Yeah. What was the latest thing? I'm sorry, I might have missed it.
Well, Stonewall is a national monument.
Mm-hmm.
So the Parks Department, it is run by the Parks Department, the Secretary of Interior. So Stonewall, because of the riot and the history of it, it has landmark status in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
a museum, right? Correct, a museum.
It's still an active bar. And there's like a plaque outside. So when you come to New York, you could visit. There's like a plaque outside and everything in the national park, and there's park rangers that take you around the Greenwich Village and say, "Here's Stonewall," and it's a national monument. The building itself is so in the city it's landmarked, and in the state it's also has a designation, and then on the federal level it's a national monument. So when the Secretary of Interior, they took the T, it only says LGB, and they took the T away.
Wow.
And the T away was
see what I'm talking about? Erasure.
Yeah, so it cost a lot, and it was just really like, I was like, to me it just seems so petty, like to take the T away, and then all the other letters that go, the subsequent letters of the plus. So now it just says on the federal website, it just says LGB. So that's the latest thing evolved, and it was just really upsetting. Because there's so many. I'm blanking on the name, but one of the pioneers was a Black trans woman. So
Marsha P.
Yes, the intersectionality. There's actually a park down the street just that they build in her name, but it's a state park. So, but like, it was just really upsetting.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely upsetting, and I have to kind of, I compartmentalize. That's what I'll admit, because that was my next
way to go.
Right. Question for you as a practitioner, how you dealing with things? That's how I'm kind of dealing. So I take it in, right? Like we have probably like a day where we kind of watch the news, see what's going on, and then we try to kind of tap out and take care of ourselves, and then we'll come back to it and see what's going on. And to be honest, watching it now is more about, do I need to go? Do I need to, is my safety, right? That's really what I'm thinking about, because most of the stuff is not surprising anymore. That's not how I feel. Like when he was in office before, some of it felt surprising. Now, because we had Project 25 and, all this stuff that was already said before, I kind of already knew what it was going to be. So it doesn't feel surprising. I think it more feels like a state of emergency in some ways.
I think it's the way, the kind of shock and all the blitz of it all. It's on purpose, right?
Yeah,
It's on
to
purpose.
dysregulate us, right?
The whole disrupting and shock and awe, and like, it's only been a month, for Christ's sake. It's not even February 20th. Why are there 100 executive? I mean, it's just what are you waiting for? You're waiting to get everything in these first 2 years because you're lame duck and you're worried about the elections in 2 years, and it's like, so. I mean, I'm trying to think that it's the way, the blitz about it, and the whole. That's a whole different discussion. Like, it's just the way it's being done.
Yeah, and it's on purpose, right? There's other folks who are studying this in a more psychological and a social way, right? In order to really control a population, creating fear, creating anxiety, dysregulating them, distracting them, right? That's the way you do it, so that I keep telling folks, at some point, there's so many executive orders and so many things that some of this crap does slip through.
Correct. That, I mean, you have this blitz. Some of it has been stopped because it's just against the law, right? And then some of it, and then some of it has been halted, but it's exhausting.
Yep.
And it is it's a strategy.
He's exhausting the system too, right? The system itself. Like, I feel for the judges and the politicians, like, they are being put to work on a whole nother level.
But today, in LinkedIn, before we were meeting today, I was like sending messages like, come watch, watch. and in that, I saw 3 messages just today from people saying, hey, I'm among those people who got laid off. Yeah. Hey, I'm among those people who lost their job. I found out today, and so I was seeing those messages, and it was just breaking my heart.
Yeah.
I worked in law enforcement for 10 years before I got my master's, and I focused on human resources. I worked in law enforcement at the EOC. I was trained at the EOC, worked in fair housing, so to the career civil servants, to see what's happening to them, and for no reason at all. And then there's a reason for this. There's a reason for that. And it's not about, like you said, it's not really about efficiency or saving money. There's other things that are going on. The people who are left are demoralized and overworked. And these are real services that we're going to feel the impact. Like, we're like, it's happening in Washington, it's happening over there, but eventually we're going to feel the impact when there's no doctor at the clinic or no, Social Security payment in your inbox, or we're going to start feeling it, or your taxes, or you get audited for no reason because there's no competent, because the person is overworked and underpaid. This is going to eventually really impact everyday Americans' lives. Right now, it doesn't feel like it because it's just on TV, right? Or it's just like there's a protest, there's a news conference. But I mean, it's not a coincidence that there have been, 4 plane crashes after the FAA, head of the FAA was dismissed, and a whole bunch of people with the FAA is fired. It's DEI's fault that the helicopter pilot crashed into the plane. But the fact that the FAA director was dismissed and half of the FAA was fired, and air control, and there's a lack of air traffic controllers, and they're overworked and underpaid, that has nothing to do with the plane crashes.
Right.
But DEI does. Somehow we're supposed to believe that the fact that, and I'm not a conspiracy person, Yvonne. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I just don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah, there's no
So,
coincidence, right? There's no coincidence, I don't think, and that was a really sad moment. I wanna definitely send condolences to everyone who lost their families during that plane crash because, I watched it from the beginning when it first happened. It was like the first story was a young man who lost his wife, right? He was like, "She texted me, but I knew something was wrong." And then I literally fell asleep on the couch. I was like, "Okay, it looks like a plane crash." But in my head, it wasn't like as bad as it was because they hadn't talked about it, right? But then the next day,
oh
I
my
like
God.
you said, I'm watching the news, and normally when we have a leader of our country, they're very remorseful. They're telling you about the victims, who was on the plane, the families. And then it's they not only did he start talking about DEI in particular, he started talking about people who are disabled. He started talking about women. He started talking about particular groups of people during that dialogue. So it was really a horrible moment for our country. And I think that, I've been having a lot of global conversations, Dora, with folks who are outside of the US. And people literally are like, "Are you okay? Do you need to come here?" Like on a global scale,
I rent my
it
apartment to you for 4 years.
yeah, people are really like trying to help you out like right now. On a global scale, I think overall the executive orders and all of that, but I think really that moment where our leader chose to make it a political stumping moment really, really stuck with a lot of people um, during that time. So it's very unfortunate, but I'm thankful that we have people like you and I who see this clearly and see the impact that is happening. But my question for you, right, as we kind of wrap up tonight is what are you doing to take care of yourself? And what are some practices that you would like to share with other DEI practitioners during this time?
Well, wellness has always been really important. It's an important DEI practice. Taking care of yourself. And I have often found that I am neglectful. I tend to try to take care of others before I take care of myself. But what I have found by doing, I've compartmentalized what you said, and I started just instead of being angry, um, I want to do something. So I found myself, uh, I I opened up my wallet and I'm donating to
Mm.
causes that I believe in, and that has made me feel a little bit better because I'm just like, oh my God, they're gonna lose their funding. I was like, I don't have a lot of money, but I know they're gonna lose their funding, and I just, you know, I'm making phone calls. I'm being active in a way that isn't angry or like depleting my energy. So I'll make a phone call. I'll send an email. I'll I'll donate. Um, And then I've been watching a lot of movies. I love my pop culture. I love the fact that I know this is going to be replayed and out. So it happens to be February 2025 and the Oscars are a few weeks away. And I've been just finding joy on like watching all the movies on the list. And like,
What's your top two films of the year?
well, I love Amelia Perez. I loved it. I loved it. And, I'm biased. Zoe Saldana is an Afro Latina who I love.
And an
She's one of
amazing actress.
She's one of my favorite actresses. My mom knows her parents. So I was like, Mom,
Okay.
really? And because she's from New Jersey. Um, and I love the music. And I believe it or not, I really like that Conclave movie. I didn't think a
Okay.
movie about a bunch of priests and popes and all of that. It was, and I think I don't want to give away the surprise, but Evolve. I think you would like Conclave too.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to watch it. Because I kind of felt through the trailers, I was like, I don't know if I'm really gonna like
I know
this.
it's not. It's a bunch of white European guys. But I'm not religious. But the movie isn't about religion. It's about it's about well, I was very surprised how much I liked it.
Okay. Okay. So I got to put it on my list to watch. Bet, definitely. Well, I'm happy that you're finding ways to take care of yourselves. One of the things I've been doing is just trying to, like you said, compartmentalize, take care of me. So I'm definitely setting up a lot more boundaries. And I'm not tapping out of DEI work, but I'm tapping out of performative DEI work. So unless an organization is on the 2.0, 3.0 level, like I'm down to talk to an organization who's done a lot of work that wants to pivot and wants to figure out communication and messaging around that, but wants to still protect their funding. I think that's a very mature conversation. What I don't want to do right now is have conversations about why it's important, what DEI is, the basics. I don't feel like I have that energy. But what I'm so excited about, and what I keep telling my young people who are just getting into the work, is we need you. We need you for those 101s. We need you for these moments and these conversations. We need your innovation. So it feels good to have young folks, not even just in age, but in the work, to say, hey, I've got this opportunity. Is this something that you're more interested in? Because I think it's a great space to develop your skills. And then the other thing I'm doing is I'm going to see Beyonce this year.
Everybody was saying how hard it is. It's the chitlin tour. Oh my God. You have no idea. I was like, oh my God. I'm so jealous, Evolve.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go see Beyonce. But this is the tip I'll give y'all about Beyonce. Beyonce tickets are never gonna be cheap again, y'all. Beyonce is Michael Jackson of our moment, right? And at any moment, she may not do any more performances, right? So what we've decided to do as a family is we make it an experience, right? For the amount of money that you could spend on a ticket to go in Houston or New York, you could probably go out of the country, which we're going to be going out of the country to see her, and make it a full vacation and experience.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. I'm not going to share the location because of safety. Y'all know me, I don't share until I go, because I'm always trying to remain safe. But what I will say is that probably around that cost would be the cost to go and have a VIP experience at a local city here. The other thing is other countries treat capitalism in a different way. So in other parts of the world, this whole buy a ticket and resell it for $1 million, they don't even have policies where you're able to do that.
Sometimes it's cheaper to get a ticket in Europe.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we did.
And so it's worth taking the vacation.
It's worth taking a vacation. The last time we seen her, Dora, was in, we actually went to Amsterdam to see her for the Renaissance tour.
So jealous.
And when I tell you the VIP tickets here in the States, and folks can quote me, you know, y'all Beyonce stands. I'm in the Beehive, but I'm not in it as deep as others. But I know some people spent up to $4,000 on the VIP tickets.
Just the ticket alone.
Just the ticket alone. Mm-hmm. Especially after resale, right? If you're not able to catch it, probably general price when you first got it was $2,000, but then they're going to sell it for double, right? So anywhere between $2,000 to $4,000, we spent $800 to $900 on that same VIP seat and experience, and had a great time. So for folks who are trying to do Beyonce, give yourself some luxury if you have the cash flow. I know that this is a real tight time for people. Some people just got laid off. But I just put a post up, y'all, on LinkedIn. If you just got laid off, take a break. Yeah. Go on that vacation. Use that severance for good. Take care of yourself. This is not the time to buckle down and start a business or get back into capitalism, or even go and applying for jobs if you don't have the capacity. Sometimes these moments, I'm telling y'all, when I left my corporate job and I realized like how much tension and abuse I was holding, I wish I would have just took more time to just heal me. So you do not need to like force yourself to go out into the capitalistic world. You can kind of just take care of yourself, right? And maybe that includes going to see Beyonce if you want.
That's great advice. I'm so jealous. But I'm the type of person who the way I'll see Beyonce is I enter into contests.
And you'll win.
And that's what I do.
And you'll win, Dora. You're a very lucky person.
I'm calling, like, enter the contest.
Yep, you're a very lucky person that will win. It was funny. We were listening to the radio and they were saying about the Kendrick Lamar concert, because I still haven't got tickets to see Kendrick. I just can't imagine. I love Kendrick to death. I've seen him through all of his phases. I'm from LA. Shouts out to anybody from the West Coast. But He's a rapper. I love him. But I'm not gonna spend all this money for that. So my wife was like, "Yeah,
128
call into the radio so you can win those tickets." So
128 million people watched it, and I spoke to my cousin who doesn't like rap music at all, and she was raptured. She
yeah.
thought the artistry, the choreography, the flag representation. She doesn't, I mean, she likes SZA, who doesn't, and she was like, I never heard of this guy before, but she knew the song from Black Panther.
Mhm.
But I mean, it was a great show. It exposed a lot of people to him, and I just,
Yeah. It
and
was a
I
fun
was
one.
like, I was wondering, I was like, is he gonna stay to watch the show because number 47 was there, and he left.
He did.
Because I was like, oh no, because if he stays to watch the show, he's gonna. I was like, I wonder if Kendrick will like say his pronouns or something, or like do something like. I was like, maybe he'll add something more in, like to like. But no, it was a great show.
Yep, he definitely left. Okay, so look, you are always a winner. Look at this. Shout
Oh
you
yes,
out.
I won tickets to see The Weeknd. We went to see The Weeknd. That was like our first date night without the kids.
See,
Oh,
so that's why I always know, Dora, when people are actually winners because they bring it up. Us folks, I don't win things often. I'm not as lucky. We don't bring up competition. We like, well, I'm just gonna pay for the tickets. You like, I'll just win them. It's fine. You already know you have.
I will have them. We did. We won tickets to see The Weeknd, and it was a great show.
Yep. Sometimes the tickets you win are like the best tickets that you'll ever get. I remember being a young person and we had to do community service and we got tickets to go to a basketball game and they were floor seats. I
Wow.
was like 13 years old to sitting on the floor and I could not believe it. And they were free tickets. They were like, yeah, you did the most volunteer hours. So you get these tickets. It was the Clippers and the Boston Celtics. No offense to the Clippers, but I'm a Laker fan. But still, it was a great experience to sit on the floor. So I hope you win those tickets. So I want to share with the audience how can they support you and what do you have going on next?
So Evolve. This was a real great conversation. Thank you so much. It's nice to be in community with you because, and it's nice to be able to share with people our thoughts on DEI. Stay the course, people. Tune out the rhetoric. Coach Dora, you can find me at Coach Dora M on Insta and YouTube and Coach Dora Mendez, Mendez.com. The big thing that I have coming up is I have another book coming out, an anthology called Extraordinary Latinas, Volume 4. And my chapter is about unity in the Latino community and how we can overcome adversity for everyone. And so that comes out March 5th, just in time for Women's History Month. You can get it on Amazon, Kindle version, Extraordinary Latinas Volume 4. So that's the latest thing I have going on. And then of course I'm open for coaching and consultations and all the good stuff you and public speaking. You can find me at Coach Dora.
Definitely, y'all. So what we're gonna do is we'll put all of this information in the show notes. The other thing is if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, the next video up is Coach Dora's Speakers Reel. I want you to check that out. And if you love it, make sure that you hire her to speak at your next event because she's an amazing thought agent, an amazing speaker, and she will rock your audience in such a transformative way that you will not regret bringing her to your event. So you're going to see the next video up is that Speakers Reel.
And I want to share with your audience and your listeners that Speakers Reel was made possible by your conference in June. So if you're thinking about joining Speaking for Profit Academy, I highly recommend it. It changed my life. And so it gave me the confidence to keep going. So thank you, Evolve. Thanks for showing my Speakers Reel because that was produced by you. That helped thanks to you. I wouldn't have had that opportunity if it wasn't for your conference in June in Atlanta, right? It's June 2025 in Atlanta.
Yeah, definitely. So we're moving into fall 2025, but we're still going to
You
do this.
are.
Yeah, so you'll get more information as an alumni. But yes, we're still doing the event. We'll still be producing speakers reels. And what I really appreciated about yours, Dora, in particular, is you have such a way of gathering people when you speak, right? Like you're a real fun person, but you are intentionally slow, you're intentionally caring, and you took your time. And it was, I don't know, it was really well done. So y'all let us know in the next video, like if you like it, what are some things that you like? What are some things that you love? We only lead with positivity around here. If you got critiques, keep them to yourself. We don't want to hear all that. But if you like it and you love it, we would love for you to like, watch, and definitely subscribe to the channel so that you can get more of this amazing content. Dora, thank you so much for being here. We'll have to have a part 2, maybe even bring in Dr. Eunice to come and talk with us and continue this conversation, right? If y'all leave with anything, like Coach Dora said, don't be stagnant. Don't allow for erasure to happen. Continue to have these conversations, but please make sure that you take care of yourself. All right, y'all. Till next time, peace.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.